Welcome to our ANZAC Assembly. Today we come together to remember and honour the courage, sacrifice and service of those who served our country. We will also recognise the women from our school who served and take time to reflect on our legacy. To begin, I would like to invite Mia to share a special story about her grandfather's service in the Air Force. Kia ora koutou katoa. My name is Mia Delaney. My grandfather, Neville Farquhar, was a part of the Air Force for 20 years. He served in both times of peace and war. My grandfather took part in the Vietnam War and he served in the Chinese Singapore in the Air Force. He flew in the support of the army fighting on the ground, and as he also served in ANZAC from February 1967 to June 1989, which is just under 22 and a half years. He started as a 16-year airman cadet and retired as a senior officer holding the rank of a squadron leader. His trade was a supplier when he joined the Air Force, and he became a senior supply officer. Today his job is called logistics. He joined for a number of reasons. One, because he was always interested in flying aircraft, and he used to fly model airplanes. Another reason is because he was ready to leave home. In the military, there were a bunch of people in a confined environment. It was important to learn how to fit in and able to make friends. He had a good friend in 1976 when he was on his officer training course. The happiest times for him were the first few years of being a part of the Air Force. Living on the base and the social life was living wonders for him. He played the guitar, which found him playing music at many events. The bad times for him were when an aircraft had crashed and the pilot was killed, which happened many times. Another bad time was in Singapore, and he had to receive and process the personal effects of an army soldier who had been killed in Vietnam. His personal documents were bloodstained. My grandfather attends the West Melbourne ANZAC Day service, and his part of the service is he recites the Ode, which is a special ANZAC remembrance to honour the sacrifice of soldiers. Thank you. Thank you, Mia, for sharing that meaningful and personal story about your grandfather's service. It is through stories like these that we are reminded of the sacrifices made by many, both in the past and within our own families. We will now remember the women from our school who served during times of war. Their courage and dedication form an important part of our school history. We will now read the Roll of Honor, recognizing those who served in World War I and World War II. We also acknowledge those who served in other times of conflict, whose names may not be recorded, but whose service and sacrifice are no less important. Doctors Adam McLaren, GC Scott, GC Madison. Matron Edna Pengelly, Sub-Matron Rose Banning. Sisters Fanny Abbott, Winifred Anstey, Annie Campbell, Mary Baring-Gold, Davina Gunn, Elsie Owens, Margaret Herbert. Alumni students who served in World War II, Lieutenant Colonel Betty Lorman, Lieutenant Rona Bevel, Matron Mildred Palmer, Chief Petty Officer Patricia Jowett, Chief Officer Leah Williams. Charge Sister Lorna Petron, Joan Hardock, Enid Greigslade. Sisters Larissa Adams, Gladys Lily Jones, Mona Nicholas, Josephine Peirce, Stella Rolls, Heather Campbell, Sheena Gillanders, and Alma Crampton, who was killed on active service in Italy in 1944. Staff nurses, Shona McCormack, Adelaide Warrington. Privates, Lorraine Wolf, June Morgan, Alice Mason. Leading Air Craftswomen, Patricia Wellswood, Constance Watson, Ethel Dove, Menzies Foster, Doris Hepburn, Patricia Hill, Doreen Keyes, Margaret Moore, Nils Perry, Kathleen Smith, Leah Smith, Margaret Smith, Sylvia Taylor, Marjorie Turton. Thank you for listening. Kia ora koutou. Today I'm going to tell you about one of the many many women from our school who served New Zealand during times of war. I would also like to warmly acknowledge and welcome Gill Hay, Davina Gunn's granddaughter, who is with us today. Thank you for joining us and being here as we share and remember your family story. Davina Gunn was born in Christchurch on the 9th of May 1888 and was known to friends and family as Davina. She had two brothers and sisters. Davina attended our kura at the Cramner's Crest site between 1902 and 1903. We know little of her time at school, but in her first year she earned first place in English, geography and Latin. She was also involved in the drama group. Her sister Wilberfred, known as Wig, also attended CGHS from 1908. Davina completed her first aid certificate in 1908 and trained later as a nurse under matron Mabel Thurston, who she would later serve alongside in Egypt. When war was declared in 1914, Davina was working at the Lyndhurst Private Nursing Home on Burleigh Ave. She applied to serve overseas with the New Zealand Medical Corps and eventually departed on the hospital ship Marama during New Zealand nursing service in Egypt in 1915. Her two older brothers also answered the call. Randall enlisted as a trooper in the Canterbury Mounted Rifles, and her other brother Robert also joined the Rifles in 1915 and was later promoted to sergeant. Davina first served at the General Hospital in Egypt, caring for the sick and wounded. In a letter published in our school magazine, she wrote about the heat of the hospital and how she cared for soldiers from Scotland who shared stories of Gallipoli. During this time, she formed a friendship with Sister Winifred Anstey, who she may have known through Christchurch nursing circles. Davina later contracted typhoid fever. After recovering, she was posted to Brockenhurst Military Hospital in England in 1916, a convalescent hospital where New Zealand soldiers were recovered before returning to service. It was during this time that she learned that her brother Robert, affectionately known as Val, had been killed in the Battle of Somme in 1916. New Zealand suffered 7,000 casualties at the Somme, including 1,500 deaths within just 23 days. Her other brother Randall survived the war and returned to Christchurch. Around the time of her brother's death, Davina met James Hay, and they were married in Epping, Essex on the 5th of December 1917. As a married woman, she was required to leave nursing and take on domestic duties. James served as a senior YMCA secretary to the New Zealand division, supporting welfare services across Egypt, France and England, for which he was later knighted. After returning from the war in 1990, they settled in Wellington. Davina remained a strong advocate for nursing and health professions. She became president of the Overseas Women's War Workers Association, a life member of the RSA, and an active member of many community and church organisations. In 1925, Davina and her family returned to Christchurch. They later moved to Pumuriri Street in 1939, where their home became a place of peace and gathering, especially for Davina's garden, which was her sanctuary. The home became a meeting place for her nursing friends, known as the Thurston Club, formed in honour of matron Mabel Thurston. These women met regularly in their garden, and it was understood that Davina was never to be disturbed during these gatherings. They shared a bond formed through their service in the war, which lasted their entire lives. Davina briefly returned to nursing during World War II, but her main focus remained her family and community. She died in 1969. While her husband and children are often remembered for their achievements, Davina's story is just as significant. She is remembered at our school on the white cross by the mill pond and on the memorial board near the pack. Today, we remember all the service people who have served our country in times of war and peace. I am able to speak about Davina, but I also think about my family members and all the old girls who served. It is important to remember them, lest we forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Millie, for that. Now we're going to take part in reflection activity. Each of you will be given a paper copy to write on. On your copy, please write one thing you are grateful for as a way of remembering the sacrifices made by those who served and reflecting on what they gave up for us. Upper teachers, could you please keep the power and paper copies for improving over that and anyone else?